Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another week of live Q&A here on Trauma Recovery University. I'm your host, Athena Moberg, and I'm so excited that you are here this week. Thank you for being on this channel. Thank you for being either over on the Twitter stream using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. Everybody just sort of gathers over there and tweets out questions and supports one another. Or thank you for being in the live stream chat box right here on the YouTube app. And thank you for supporting one another, being with one another. And if you're not here live and you're watching a replay, we are so excited that you're here. This is live Q&A. It's interactive, so people are getting their questions answered, hence all the talking. So if you have questions that you'd love answered on a future video, then I would love for you to leave them in the comments below. And if this video is helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone that you love. This channel is for adult survivors of childhood abuse, specifically childhood sexual abuse. If you incurred any type of child abuse, this YouTube channel is a safe place for you to come heal. And a lot of the topics you will probably find to be very applicable to you in your journey in healing from childhood trauma, childhood abuse. And that's whether or not your abuse or your trauma happened in your family of origin or if it happened outside the home. Most of the people that are here, about 55% and up, their abuse happened in the home and in their family of origin. So a lot of those topics, a lot of our topics here in this channel, there are over 100, almost 200 hours of Q&A videos here for you. And we're excited that you're here. With that being said, I do want to issue a trigger warning. So the topics we discuss here on this channel are very sensitive topics, and we do discuss childhood abuse, oftentimes childhood sexual abuse. The questions that come in from our viewers like you, whether you're over on our Roku TV channel, you're here on YouTube, or if you're finding us on iTunes or some sort of podcast platform, the questions are pertaining to healing from childhood abuse. So we are so excited that you're here. And I'm not on the Twitter feed like I used to be. I used to be able to hang out with you guys and sort of tweet back and forth, and I'm not really able to do that right now, but I want to let you guys know, as of this week, Heather Tuba has stepped up, and she is our moderator over on the Twitter stream, along with a whole bunch of other of you guys that are volunteering. I know that Jack's over on the Twitter feed a lot of times, so is Dominique, so is Dawn, so is Maggie. A whole bunch of you are over on the Twitter feed. And that Heather has officially stepped up, and she's going to be here with us every single week moderating the Twitter feed. So thank you to Heather Tuba. If you want to send her a little thank you tweet, that would be amazing. She's at Heather Tuba. And then we want to welcome back Maggie. And I believe Maggie is over on Twitter at Uncorny Living. She's back with us. And she's our research, our research intern, and she's going to be doing some research for us on a lot of the topics that you guys have been sending me. So this week's topic is anxiety, awkwardness, social awkwardness, how to be less socially awkward, how our abuse affects the way we show up in the world, and how to not be so afraid of talking. And then that leads us into the topic of, well, there is a such thing as social anxiety disorder, right, Athena? Like, do I have that? I'm not here to diagnose anybody. I'm not a doctor. In fact, I do not want you to ever think that this lovely podcast, this lovely YouTube video or Roku TV channel or wherever it is that you're finding us, we are not a substitute for professional medical assistance. In fact, if you're triggered, we ask that you step away from the #NoMoreShame hashtag or step away from the YouTube chat box, so that everybody else can enjoy supporting one another and being supported in a positive, healthy environment. So if you're triggered, we want you to receive the support that you deserve and the support that you need. We would love for you to reach out to our friends over at RAINN, that's RAINN.org. That stands for the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. And they have a live chat feature. Also, 1in6.org. That is specifically for the men here in our community, and I love being able to recommend that you guys go over to 1in6.org to receive the support that you deserve. And then there's also, if you are located in the UK, you can reach out to the Samaritans at samaritans.org. You can also send them an email if you have email questions just about your recovery journey. There is a staff member there named Jo, J-O, at samaritans.org. Definitely send her an email. I don't have all of the different tweet numbers or texting numbers for the different hotlines, domestic abuse hotline, suicide hotline, the different resources in Australia. I don't have all those memorized, but I'll get more organized over the next few months and get those things sort of set up for you. But welcome, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. Again, the topic this week is anxiety, social awkwardness, social anxiety disorder, how to be less socially awkward, how our abuse affects us socially, how to not be afraid of talking. And I just want to point out really quick that these topics are recommended by you guys. And I have the specific question that was sent in. I asked the question of our community, what topics would you like discussed? And hopefully you guys can see this okay. And this is one of the things that I got sent, and that is how to become less socially awkward. That's my second vote. And I believe the first vote was something different that we've already discussed. And if I haven't covered it yet, I will end up covering it. I just haven't covered it yet. So how to become less socially awkward. And then the next person says, how our abuse affects us socially. And then the person after that responds and says, yes, and social anxiety and the fear of speaking. And this seems to be the consensus among many of you guys. I receive so many messages from you guys, whether it's on Twitter or email. By the way, you can send us an email at nomoreshameproject@gmail.com, and I'll respond as soon as I can. It sometimes takes weeks for me to get back to you, but I will get back to you as soon as I humanly possibly can. And I also have a question that was sent over today by one of our friends in our Twitter community and Facebook community. I didn't ask her if it was okay to use her name. So let me see if I can pull up her question really quick. It was on this similar topic to dealing with something like social, like people were coming over to their house, like inspectors. And like I have similar anxieties to this because I'm going through something where I'm having inspectors in my home, and I'm trying to navigate the waters of all of that. So let me see if I can get this this question up super quick here and read you the exact question that she sent in today. Let me see here. Here we go. She says, I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight, but I will be watching the replay. My question is, in a few days, I will be having inspectors come into my apartment. And I've never experienced this before. And with strangers coming into my home, it's upsetting and it's nerve-wracking. And ever since I got the notice that they were coming, I've been having anxiety. I have to be present during this inspection. I know these people are professionals, but I'm still very anxious. Am I overreacting? And what tips do you suggest? So I'm going to go ahead and kind of run with that. And no questions from you guys so far. So I'm going to go ahead and run with that. And I'm going to say, first of all, I relate. I relate so closely with this particular question and with this topic of social anxiety. And I think one of the things that I relate with the most on top of this topic is that people that know me, like in real life, in person, or even online here on YouTube or Roku or iTunes, or just in our community at large. There's thousands of you, and you're in all these different countries, and every single person that I interact with on a one-on-one basis, many of you are shocked to learn that I am an introvert. And it's not that you're judging me and that you don't believe me that I'm an introvert, or that you don't believe me that I'm socially anxious, or that I have tremendous social anxiety, or well, how can you say that you have social anxiety, Athena? You get up and you speak in front of people, and you speak to in front of audience of people online all the time. You've gotten up in front of our church and you've spoken in front of hundreds of people at a time, and you've stood up and you've spoken at these things, and you used to stand up every single week and speak publicly for a year, every week for a year. So how can you say that you're an introvert and that you experience social anxiety? Like, did you really put yourself through that every single week for a year? And are you really an introvert? And like, really, can you really understand how I'm feeling, Athena? And like, I've experienced sort of a shock, and I don't want to say a judgment. My eyes are watering a lot tonight. I don't know if it's because like one of my lights isn't working, so maybe it's because I have all this light coming this way. But I get a lot of comments about social anxiety and being an introvert. And all being an introvert means is that you gain most of your the way you're most effectively filled up, or that you receive energy and you feel the most at ease when you are either by yourself or with like one other person. And that is definitely me. When I am around many people, usually, not always, it's more of a draining situation for me. So not always. I have a certain group of women. There's about 14 of us. When we get together, it is very me, and it doesn't drain me. But social anxiety in and of itself is not a respecter of persons. You don't have to be an introvert to be socially anxious. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be someone who's survived abuse. You don't have to be someone who is shy. Those are all contributing factors, and some of it is genetic, but social anxiety is not a respecter of persons. So literally a huge percentage of the population, I'm going to go through some stats in a little bit and discuss that with you. A lot of people are affected by social anxiety, and more people than not usually reach out to me and say, I'm feeling extremely anxious about this. And there's usually a cycle that it goes through. I'm feeling extremely anxious. Why am I feeling extremely anxious? I start to shame myself because I'm feeling anxious. And then now, on top of feeling anxious, I'm anxious about feeling anxious and about continuing to feel anxious. And so there's this cycle that you go through, and it's a self-perpetuating cycle, and it can be very destructive and not helpful for us. So what I want to do tonight is I want to normalize it a little bit. I want to break it down. I want to talk about social awkwardness, social anxiety. I want to answer your questions. And then I found a great blog, and I found a great slide share that I'm going to share with you guys tonight, and sort of walk through the topic of social awkwardness, social anxiety disorder, and then dive in and answer a whole bunch of your guys' questions. So, so far, I don't believe you have any questions for me yet. If you have, I hope everybody can see me and hear me okay. And it looks like I have a whole bunch of you here on the app. There's like 25 of you on the app. And then at least that many of you over on Twitter. And that's not even counting the replay. So I'm just going to continue moving on forward. So hopefully you all could see me and hear me okay. And I'm going to go ahead and begin sharing this slide share with you. I would love for you guys to just post in the comments below the video if you're watching a replay. or over in the chat box or over on Twitter if you're live, any questions that you might have that I can help with or answer your questions about. So anything that I've already said or just questions that you might have. Oh, I wanted to just wrap up that question that the gal was asking that she sent me on Twitter about the inspector. I want to say, no, you're not overreacting. And it is completely natural for you to feel anxious about people coming into your home and invading your space, especially if you're an adult survivor of child abuse, which I know that you are because I know who you were and you sent me the message. I want you to know that it is natural for adult survivors of childhood abuse to experience feelings of like having your feelings of being violated. It's very violating. It can feel very violating when people are coming into your personal space and they're strangers. And so you're not overreacting. And I want to encourage you to look up grounding, practice some grounding skills. Find ways to calm yourself and try to be fully present. Practice some mindfulness techniques that you can learn real easy online just by Googling DBT, D like David, B like boy, T like Tom. Like really practice some mindfulness skills and it will ease your anxiety a little bit. However, it's one of the best ways for you to feel less anxious is by Googling a term called CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy. Now, DBT is an offshoot of CBT, and it reframes our anxious mind and challenges our anxious thoughts. And DBT gives us the skills that we need to be able to navigate through situations that cause us to feel anxious. So, and also being involved in safe support, like in a community like this where you're not going to be judged for feeling anxious, is super duper helpful. So reach out to us in the private secret groups and in the safe groups where you feel safe and you can just be yourself and just let it all out, and allow us to support you and encourage you and help you to feel less awkward and less anxious and less alone. So hopefully that helps. Oh, I have a couple questions before I go into the SlideShare presentation that I'm going to share with you all. I have some questions that you guys are sending in. Thank you so much to Matt, who is moderating the YouTube chat box. Thank you so much to Jack, who does our Storify, and to just all of you, and Kalisha, who does all of our awesome memes and handles our Instagram account over there. It's just at Survivor Community. So follow us over there and say hi to Kalisha because she's amazing and has just awesome skills. So, and everybody else too, if I'm leaving you out, I'm really sorry. And thanks to Harriet, who does all of our post-production and transcription and all of that, and blog posts, and just the village of people that it takes to serve this community effectively. I have some questions from you guys. Let me see here. Connie says, I used to work in a hospital and I noticed that I would cower and become introverted around certain doctors. Then I realized they were tall and they had a deep voice like the stepfather that abused me. That is so key, Connie, that you are so aware of it's awesome that you're so aware of the similarities between the people that you were cowering from and the doctors that you were feeling anxious around. It can sometimes be a smell. I couldn't figure out why there was this person at church that I always really avoided, and then it kind of hit me one day that it was the way that he smells, and he smells similar to one of my abusers. So I'm sorry that you have to work around those doctors, Connie, that have the same, like a similar voice and that have a similar stature to your abuser. That can be so triggering. And I just want to commend you for being brave and for even acknowledging that that's what it is, and for putting two and two together, because oftentimes we can just get flooded. And it can be really, really difficult to like identify what it is. And sometimes we lose time, we dissociate. if we get triggered into a place, like have an emotional flashback. I was about 11 years ago when I was sort of in my second or third wave of working through some memories. I was walking through Walmart and I was in the like shampoo, conditioner, sort of like deodorant section, you know. I was just turning the corner from the shampoo, conditioner, moving over to like the shaving cream, deodorant type section. And I must have gotten a whiff of some sort of like aftershave or something. I don't know how long I was standing there, but I lost time. And I lost time to the point where I looked around and I couldn't believe how many people were standing around me when I realized that I had lost time. So it was really disturbing. And I'm just so thankful, Connie, that you're able to recognize what it is that triggers you, and hopefully you can breathe your way through it and really just, again, maybe practice some mindfulness techniques. A lot of this sounds redundant, like, oh, just practice some mindfulness techniques. It'll just be fantastic. I'm not saying it's going to make it all better and make it go away, but it does, any little bit does help. Any of those skills that we can put into our tool belt and take with us wherever we go, that help us to remain fully present and aware that we are full-blown adults and that no one is going to touch us without our okay, and no one's going to violate us and no one's going to harm us. Like, we are safe. We are adults. The way I described this to one of my helping professionals, one of my caregivers, not a doctor, but she's a coach that I was working with, I described it to her as like the mode that I was in is like I would be wearing like combat boots to the grocery store. Like when I was a child, I was in a war zone and there were a lot of drugs and violence and weapons and police activity and all of that, like kind of like a war zone. So like I always had my combat boots on when I was a child. And then here I am 30 years later and I'm putting my combat boots on before I go to the market to get bread. And it just doesn't, those skills that I had then kept me alive, but I don't need those coping strategies that I used when I was a child now. Like instead of my combat boots, I can do something different. I know it's a strange euphemism or example, but it kind of helped her to understand like the mindset that I was in at the time, because I was just trying to stay alive when I was a kid, and now here I am and I am alive. I'm an adult. And so I'm trying to remain in a healthy mindset. So way to go, Connie, on recognizing that. And I hope that you are able to perhaps not have to be around those particular doctors for a really long time, but way to go on realizing that and putting all the pieces together. Dominique says, ooh, evaluations and inspections are so uncomfortable. I developed a stutter at age 29 and I dissociated during work evaluations. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my gosh, Dominique. I developed a speech impediment in one of my jobs. It was, I couldn't understand. I would say I couldn't stop saying but it was, I was being scrutinized, and it was a work environment, and I didn't realize that it was anything to do with my childhood whatsoever. But it was just the fact that I was being harshly judged, and it was a work environment where they would test you randomly. Like they had this phone that all of us had to answer these calls, right? We had to take turns answering these calls. It was called the hotline. And if you didn't have certain phone etiquette, you could get written up. And people would call in and they would test you to test and see if you had the proper phone etiquette. Otherwise, you would get written up and get in trouble. I developed a stutter, and this was actually back in 2009. 2009. So about 8 years ago. And I was, oh gosh, I was 30 something years old. I was 36 years old at the time. And it's just something about, if we come from an abusive environment as a child, like if we're dealing with something here and now, like this is always about that. So we're dealing with scrutiny and we're dealing with something that can be very traumatizing, and we don't realize that it can trigger us into a We don't realize that they're connected. But it is very, very, very stressful to be under scrutiny. Dominique, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. You are so not alone. And yeah, dissociating. I just got done talking about being like dissociating. It's really stressful. Let's see here. Kiss Me, I Am Toxic says, I have problems making friends in real life. I am scared. By the way, I don't know if you've been to our chats before. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome, welcome. I don't know if I know you or not, but I'm so happy you're here. Kiss Me, I'm Toxic, something says, I have problems making friends in real life. I'm scared to be around people I don't know that well. I'm scared to even let men in my house because I was attacked in my own house. Oh my goodness. Okay, first of all, you're not alone. I've had personal experience with this, and I get letters and emails and notes and tweets and DMs from people on a very regular basis. Something about having someone, whether it's a similar gender, similar stature, similar smell, similar voice, or just there's, I think Bobby says it the best. By the way, tweet Bobby and say hi to her and tell her we miss her. Bobby says it the best, and she says, she has a pinned tweet over on her Twitter account, and she says, abuse is a relational trauma. Therefore, the healing, true healing happens in relationship. And so our tendency is to isolate because we are anxious around others and because we've incurred abuse. But the real healing comes from being in relationship. And the way we can be in relationship and make sure that we're safe is by learning the difference between safe people and unsafe people. And one of the best books to figure that out is a book called Safe People. And it's a blue book with a stoplight on the front. And Harriet, perhaps you can link that up in the description below. I'm not an affiliate or anything. You can just click the link and it will take you to Amazon probably to look at the book. Maybe you can get it used for a few dollars. I know that a lot of people have done that. But it's a book called Safe People. And you actually read through it and you recognize a lot of those qualities in yourself, especially if you came from an abusive environment, because if you're raised in abuse, then you only know toxicity. And so you begin to realize that you're kind of the most unsafe person in the room. And you can easily see, oh, well, I can implement that. I can implement those changes. I can look at this differently. I can look at that differently. Wow, and you begin to show up in the world differently, and you begin to attract less unsafe people, and you attract more safe people. So that was the way, because the gal that, or the person, I don't know if you're a boy or a girl, but when you say you have trouble making friends in real life and you're scared to be around people and you don't know that well, and you don't want men to come into your house because you were attacked in your own home, this is real. This isn't an irrational fear. This is a real, valid fear. And the only way to feel more safe now, in the present time, is to sharpen your skills. And the way you can sharpen your skills is by learning the difference between a safe person and an unsafe person. Safe people versus unsafe people. And sometimes when we're starting out, if this is the first time we've ever done this, then like I was almost 30 years old. I was more than 30 years old. I was 30 something years old, 33 by the time I figured out what a safe person was. And I realized I was not a safe person. And that was devastating for me. Because here I was thinking that the problem was like everybody else. And I'm like, no, actually I'm part of the problem because I'm acting this way, and this way and attracting these types of people. So once I sort of was willing to admit that I had some issues as a direct result of my abuse, I'm not taking responsibility for everybody else's actions. I'm owning my part. And I'm saying that I realized that I was not a healthy person. I was an abused person who adapted to toxic environments so that I could survive. So if I wanted to do anything but survive, I needed to learn how to live. And one of the basic first fundamental ways of learning how to live is to surround yourself with safe people. Be safe. And so to become safe and to surround ourselves with safe people is a really big deal. And then the next step for me personally was boundaries. What's a boundary? I was 30-something years old before I understood what a boundary was. If you were raised in a toxic environment, you were raised in a boundaryless environment. I'm going to say that again. If you were raised in toxicity, it is likely, not positively 100%, but it is likely that you were raised in toxicity, which equals boundaryless. If you were raised in a toxic environment, you were likely raised in a boundaryless environment. And if you're raised in a boundaryless environment, you only know how to perpetuate toxic. We perpetuate toxic. We perpetuate boundaryless. Boundaryless is not healthy. Boundaryless giving, boundaryless anything is not healthy. It's boundaryless. And if you think about it, like a city like back in the day, like when there were, wild animals or foes, or predators or whatever it was, you have to have boundaries up so that you can keep the bad out and keep the good in. Well, in order for us to be healthy, we have to be able to keep the bad out and keep the good in. That's relationally, that's within ourselves, that's within our relationships with coworkers, with our children, with our spouses, with our friends. But it starts with our relationship with ourselves. So safe people, blue book with stoplight, and then the book Boundaries. Harriet, if you could please link both of those down below, that would be awesome, you guys. Or just Google it. Google it and look up, just find the book, maybe at like a used bookstore, or there's like, I think it's called thriftbooks.com. I got some amazing expensive like medical books and like really technical like textbooks from there for like $10, $5, whatever, and they're usually like $80, like because it's used and highlighted and penciled and all this other stuff. But I mean, do what you got to do, right? You can even find some of this stuff at your local library for free. So Harriet's going to link that below on the replay, you guys. Like in the next 24 hours, by like Tuesday or Wednesday, you should see the links down there. But if any of you on the Twitter stream, if Heather or if Maggie's here or Matt, like perhaps if anybody could link up safe people and boundaries, that would be amazing. And then there is a video, Harriet, if you could put one of those YouTube cards up here. We did a video on safe people or safety, and then we did another video on boundaries. So if you could put up those YouTube cards, that would be amazing also. So yeah, that is very, very real. And especially if you were attacked in your own home, then yes, that makes total sense. And I'm hoping you're taking some excellent forward-moving measures to make sure that you can discern who is safe and who is not safe, and then establish and maintain some very healthy boundaries. Shy Sharon says, I don't allow people in my house. I don't get cable because I will not allow the cable guy in my house. Sounds silly. Okay, you're minimizing, Shy Sharon, and you're saying it sounds silly. So I'm going to say, no, it doesn't sound silly. You are an adult survivor of childhood abuse, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, some abuse in adulthood. Not silly. It sounds like a safe measure for you. Now, will you feel the same way forever? Like, no, it doesn't have to be forever that you never have cable and forever people don't come into your home. Perhaps this is just a season that you're in until you feel safe. And allowing yourself the grace to work that all out is super duper key. So I'm proud of you, Sharon. Seriously. Lizzie says, I used to hang out with teachers before class during high school, and I talked. I think that's how I coped with my abuse. I did the same thing a couple times. I can distinctly remember talking to my one literature teacher. She was the first person in my whole life that ever told me I was smart. Her name was Gail Leonti. And I think she knew I was coping with some really heavy things, and it really did help. Izanu said, thank you for sharing, Lizzie, by the way. And thank you for sharing, Shy Sharon. Izanu says, I began dissociating at work because a coworker reminds me of one of my abusers. Oh my goodness. I know you were so excited about this new job that you got, and I'm hoping and hoping and hoping that you don't have to work too many shifts with this person so that you don't find yourself dissociating as a new. I'm thinking of you, and I'm sending you a lot of love and support. Lizzie says, I'm doing the same thing, dissociating in college, and they're making me feel like shit for it. Am I overreacting, or is this a coping type thing? I think this is twofold. Number one, dissociating sometimes can be, we can shame ourselves for dissociating, and I want to encourage you not to shame yourself. You're dissociating because dissociating is probably how you stayed alive when you were younger. So to shame yourself for it now is only going to cause you to feel worse. It's not going to cause you to feel better. So please do your best not to shame yourself if possible. If you can find a way not to shame yourself, that would be the best possible thing for you right now, Lizzie. And then the part about them making you feel like shit for it, it is likely that they are not trauma informed. And remember, we talk about being trauma informed on this channel a lot. And what trauma informed means is you're approaching someone or something always keeping in mind two things. One, your root trauma, something happened a long time ago. And two, something's happening right now that's triggering you into a dissociative episode. Trauma informed, always keeping in mind what happened before, your root trauma, and your current trauma that is triggering your root trauma. So it is likely that these teachers or the people at school, the students, are not trauma informed. And, shame on them. I hate to see if they ever go through trauma. What you're experiencing is common, and I'm hoping and praying that you can find some grounding techniques or some tools that will help you to like mindfulness, that will help you remain fully present and dissociate less. It's very hard, but I think for me, what works for me immediately is if I start thinking to myself, I have a couple of go-tos. There's the Michelle Rosenthal one where I say the word in my mind, stop, or I even say it out loud, stop. And then I tap my left shoulder, and then I tap my right shoulder. And then I reach out and I say something to another human, like that I know that they're going to be responding. So it's actually like a conversation. And I know that that's not the most convenient thing to do sometimes, because you don't want to appear as though you're being some sort of a freak, but it works. So there's that. Or if you don't feel comfortable saying out loud, stop, and then tapping and tapping and then starting a conversation, I will look around the room and I'll say to myself in my head, what color is the paint? That paint is the color light teal or aqua. What color are the curtains? The curtains are white. What color are my flowers? My flowers are white and purple. What color is this box? This box is yellow. What color is the dresser? The dresser is white. What color is my carpet? The carpet is tan. And I'm fully present. I'm here in the moment. And I just do that inside my head, and I just look around and I identify things, and I just take about 10 seconds. So I'm hoping that can help you, and it won't be something that's extra triggering for you. I'm hoping that some of these answers are helpful. And I just don't think it's right that they're you're not overreacting, and them making you feel like shit for it is just awful, and likely they're not trauma informed. Simi says, hi Simi. The thing I am most anxious about is saying or doing the wrong thing. So if someone gets offended by something I say or do. Okay, this is a big one. This is huge. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? I'm going to tell you why this is a big deal for you, Simi. And someone needs to hear this right now, so I'm going to kind of go all mama bear on you all right now, okay? Simi, the reason this is a really big deal for you, likely, is you probably in your trauma response have some sort of a fawn in you. And what that means is when you were a child, what kept you alive was pleasing other people. When we fawn as part of a trauma response, it means that we engage. We engage. We freeze. Likely freeze and fawn go together really well. Like someone says something or does something and we don't really know what to think of it or what to do. And so we sort of pause. and we're kind of frozen in time. But then what kept us alive when we were little is for us to engage with that person and try to make it all better and try to fix it. And that's people pleasing. And I just described to you codependency. Codependency in a nutshell is when you are so addicted to pleasing other people that you do it to the detriment of your own well-being. And there is a cure for this. There is a cure for this, and it's healthy boundaries. You establish and maintain healthy boundaries with yourself and then with other people, and you begin to people please less, because people pleasing is a deadly addiction. It's like heroin, it's like crack, it's like cigarettes, it's like any addiction. It's something that you are so addicted to, and on top of it being addicting, it was what kept you alive when you were younger. So again, it's like me wearing my combat boots to the grocery store. It kept me alive when I was younger because I was in a war zone, but now I'm older and my mind doesn't realize, oh, 2017, present day, I'm totally safe. I don't have to wear my combat boots to the grocery store. Or in another phrase, I don't have to please every person around me to stay alive. Our minds are still thinking that we must please everyone and not hurt anyone's feelings and do whatever everybody wants us to do. Otherwise, we will die. Because when we were children, we thought we would die. Because when you're a child and there's abuse happening, you don't realize, oh, mom and dad are just at it again, or my brother's just being a jerk. Everything's going to be cool in a few hours. No, like you are literally thinking you're going to die when you're a child, because it's our child's black and white thinking. Things are either really great or I'm going to die. And so there's a slide share that I'm going to be sharing with you guys that will really help, because our amygdala, it's about our amygdala. And I know that I don't want to go too deep into neurobiology and neuroscience and all of that, because I don't want you all to feel like I'm like sitting here talking down my nose at you and like trying to be like Little Miss Professor. Like, I just want to share with you so that you all educate yourself and feel better. So I know I was going to go into the presentation, the SlideShare presentation earlier, but I really want to answer your guys' questions first. So let's see. Kiss Me, I'm Toxic. I'm so happy you're here, by the way. And I hope my question was helpful for you. And I just found out that you are a female. So welcome, girl. Simi says, I am a freeze fawn. Or freeze fawn, freeze flee. And I self-flagellate. I don't know what flagellate means. I don't know. I have to Google that word or look at dictionary.com, and I can't do that right now. If someone can educate me, educate this girl over here that was socially inept until she was like 20-something, that would be amazing. I don't know what that means. But I'm a freeze fawn or a freeze flee myself. And maybe I self-flagellate. And I don't know it. I know you don't mean flatulence, because that's farting. But I know what flatulence means, but I don't know what flagellate means. Derek says, teachers were the only adults that were safe and encouragers in my life. Me too, Derek. Oh my goodness gracious. Yes. My literature teacher in 11th grade she was the first person to ever really tell me that I was smart, and like, she wasn't trying to groom me or lure me into anything horrible. She just wanted me to know I was smart. So I identify with that deeply, Derek. Jack says, I was raised without any boundaries, so I had to implement a lot with my wife's help. Way to go, Jack. High fives. CSAQT, Jack says, CSAQT discussed healthy boundaries. I can include the Storify link on YouTube if you want. Yes, thank you so much, Jack. I would love for you to do that. Alex Keenan Krill, hi Alex, says, I definitely talked to cope, but then I would overshare. It's so hard. I'm like an open book. I like to remove the mystery and the complications. Okay, I'm going to talk about this for a minute, and then I'm going to go to the slide share. So thanks for bringing that part up, Alex. We've talked a lot about like being anxious and sort of clamming up, but then what about when we how did our abuse affect us socially when we talk so much and then we overshare? So let's talk about that for a moment. Oh, thank you, Matt. I believe it's Matt. No, it's Heather. Wait, Heather or Matt say self-flagellate means to beat yourself up. Yes, I do that too. Let's see. Thank you for helping a girl out. So Alex is talking about a different type of social anxiety and social awkwardness, and that is oversharing. So you guys, just like when we're children and we talk a lot about the black and white thinking and the polar opposites of stuff, like so we have the clamming up and we're like socially awkward and we're like, ugh. And then we're silent, or we dissociate, or we go somewhere else, or we just don't want to talk, we don't want to engage. But then we haven't exercised our social muscles if we lived in isolation, or if we have anxiety, or if we were raised in a toxic environment. And so when we finally connect with someone who doesn't tell us we're annoying, act like they hate us, roll their eyes at us, act like we're a nuisance, if we engage with someone who isn't toxic and they're actually nice, and all of a sudden it's like, and we, what I like to call verbally vomit, emotionally vomit, all over people. And this is a problem. This is definitely a problem. And I want to encourage you that I am a former verbal vomiter. I am a former emotional vomiter. I have been known to overshare. I have been, and I still do it sometimes, but the only time I do it now that I'm aware of it, is if I'm projecting mom stuff onto someone. And it's usually an older female, like someone who's in their 60s or 70s. It's a female and they're being nice to me. All of a sudden I'm like, bleh, and I just emotionally and verbally vomit all over them. And I don't even realize I'm doing it until I'm like, oh, wow. And what it is, I hope this is going to help someone here. I'm going to just be real honest with you what my hypothesis is. And I can only talk for myself. I can only speak for me. And that is, I realize the reason I do that is because as a child and as a young adult, I craved nothing more than the love and approval and listening ear of a female role model who loved me. I just wanted to be loved by a female role model, an adult woman. I wanted to be nurtured. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be thought of as funny and smart and cool. And I wanted to go get mani-pedis. And I wanted to hang out and go do fun things. And I wanted to have fun conversations and, you know, share clothes and like do our makeup together. And I wanted to have girl talk. And I craved more than the air I breathed. I craved a healthy woman relationship. And if we're being real, I craved a healthy male relationship as well. And I didn't have either. There was the lesser of two evils, of course. There always is. But I didn't have that healthy role model who loved me unconditionally in a healthy way. And I didn't have that protection, and I didn't have that laughter or that kindness or that acceptance from a male perspective or a female perspective. So once I received that for the first time, it was like this floodgate opened, and it was just this verbal and emotional vomiting. And it was like I didn't have control over the switch, the floodgate switch. And it's because social graces and communication is a muscle, just like healthy boundaries is a muscle. Just like cultivating friendships and relationships is a muscle. Just like learning to type is like muscle memory. Just like when you exercise a certain way, or you you can push yourself, you know exactly how far you can push yourself at the gym before you're going to be totally sore the next day. You want to push yourself just a little bit farther. Or, I mean, it's muscle memory. And when you are in an isolated environment or growing up in toxicity, and there is not unconditional love and approval and kindness and acceptance and safety, and it's something that you've craved, and you don't even consciously need to know that you were craving it, we all crave it. We all have that vacuum, that hole that needs to be filled. We are social creatures. We are relational beings. We were designed to get our stoke and our enjoyment from relationships. And when we don't have those healthy relationships modeled for us, and we don't get to partake in those from a very young age and test the waters of social conversation, social graces, communication, conversation, acceptance, love, approval, when we don't get to do that from a young age, and we're learning what that looks like and feels like as an adult, bleh, like emotional and verbal vomiting happen. It just happens. And so it's gotten a lot easier for me as an adult. Like, I don't want to say easy, but I do it less often. And I notice when I do it, it's because I'm projecting mom stuff onto someone. And it is usually a woman who's in her 60s. My mom's in her 60s. Yeah. And sometimes I have a tendency, like, it depends. Sometimes I do that with my husband. Like, he's a man. You know, I always wanted that. I wanted that love and that approval, that unconditional safety and affection and approval and kindness and love from my dad. And my dad was a very aloof, cold, emotionless type person, not very socially adept. Yeah. So this is always about that. And I'm hoping that that gives you a little bit of hope, because you're not alone, for sure. Charlie Jacks says, and please, I hope, Alex, I hope that was helpful for you. Please, please, please let me know. I'm hoping that these answers are helpful for you. I have the sniffles, you guys. I'm so sorry. I've been pushing myself pretty hard lately, doing a lot. And I can feel like I'm sort of coming down a little sick or something. I can feel it. So forgive me if I'm getting like sniffly, or hopefully I'm not, hopefully my nose doesn't start to run any worse than it already is, because then I might have to step away. Let's see. Charlie Jacks says, I feel if I please people, they will like me and the awkwardness won't be as bad, but that's not always the issue because I always get taken advantage of. Yes, 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 yes. Something happens a lot of the time with predatory people. We don't really realize it. We don't realize that we're attracting predatory people because we don't have a predatory bone in our bodies usually if we grew up in toxicity, but they can smell it. They can smell what I call people pleaseritis. They can smell our desire to please them and to fit in and to be liked. They can smell it, and they exploit it. They lure us in, they groom us, they meet our needs, they approve of us until they get us right where they want us sometimes. And then boom, we're back in the same situation we came from, and it's a bad deal. So again, I can't say it enough. Charlie Jacks, Blue Book, Stoplight, different book, 2 books, Safe People, Boundaries, will be linked up in the description of this video by Tuesday or Wednesday, or just Google it, or someone share some links. Help a sister out. Share a link to Safe People and a link to Boundaries. Your life will change. Mind blown. You will show up differently in the world. And predators won't sniff you out. It's just like magic. It just happens. Charlie, it breaks my heart that you are experiencing that, because I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be taken advantage of and to be preyed upon, and it's horrible. It's very triggering because it's very reminiscent of my childhood, and I'm so sorry you're experiencing that in adulthood, and I want you to be safe. Please read those 2 books. Please, pinky swear that you are going to read those 2 books, Charlie Jax. Please, please. Simi says, I'm good with helping others to set boundaries, but setting them for or with myself is such a hard thing for me. Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness gracious. Yes. I struggled with this for a really long time, Simi. You're definitely not alone. I have a feeling like this safe people and boundaries keep showing up as like a topic in our community. I feel like I need to lead like a group. I feel like I need to lead a group study on safe people and boundaries, like practical, walk it out. Like, if you're interested, let me know, because this is just big. And Simi, yes, it was easy for me to help other people do it, but when it came to me, it was so hard, and I had a hard time, but I had to do it. It was hard, but it was worth it. And my whole life is different now, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So let me see. Dominique says, I'm working on seeing my intention before heavy sharing. Why am I telling this? Is it to help you or me? I wish I could throw some actual confetti right now. I need to do that one of these days. That is huge, Dominique. That is a huge light bulb, huge like realization, huge moment for you. If you are able to pause before you heavy share or overshare and ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? And is it to help you or is it to help me? And if it's to help you, I want to tell you all something right now. If it's to help you, go for it. Go for it. If it's going to help you to share with someone, then by all means share, unless you have like a gut feeling that it's something that will not be well received, or it's not the time or the place, or gosh, I don't know, like, but if you think it's going to help you, then for sure. I'm so proud of you, Dominique. That's a huge sign of growth right there. What you just did, what you just mentioned is a huge sign of growth. So high fives, Dominique. Goodness gracious, girl. So proud of you. It took me so long to do that. It took me so long to be able to pause before I did it. I just am high-fiving you right now. Wow, that's big. Alex says, I find I get shunned and shamed in the job place in America more often. Even being honest, just about CPTSD. Yes, 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 yes. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it as respectfully as I can, but oh my goodness, I do not want to go onto a soapbox right about now, because I need to do this. I need to do the slide share is what I need to do. But Alex, people in the workplace, they are the center of the universe. Our coworkers are the center of their own universe. Let's remember that. And if they're the center of their own universe, being other-centered or sensitive to someone else's reality is not a part of being. It means that the universe isn't revolving around them. They're not the center of their own universe that way. So it's just human nature to need to be the center of the universe. There is a healthy narcissist in all of us with a little n, not a malignant narcissist, but it just means that we are doing what is right for us. And sometimes that little n, that healthy narcissist, turns into really not having time for anybody else and exploiting other people and meeting your needs at the expense of others. And if those people are being insensitive to you, how did you word it? I don't want to put words in your mouth. If you are being shunned and shamed in the workplace for being honest about your complex PTSD, it is likely that they're just like, ain't nobody got no time for this. And that's not okay. And I just want to encourage you to go to human resources if you can and let them know that you have something legitimate going on. And if you don't have a diagnosis, then, you know, get a doctor's note, go and try to get a diagnosis. And if you can't, you know, do your best to explain to them what exactly is going on with you. And human resources will protect you. They don't want a lawsuit. They have the best interest of the corporation in mind, and they will protect you. And they'll make sure that these people stop shunning you and shaming you. And if there's retribution or you fear retribution, you're protected by a whole bunch of, in America, you said it's America, you're protected. You are protected. So please reach out to HR. I don't want you to suffer in silence. There's no need for that. Oh, thanks for tweeting out those books, you guys. You rock. Thank you. Hey, Stu. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to see you. Congratulations on the job offer, by the way. Stu got a job offer. Kind of excited for you. I wonder if you're going to be moving to BC or if you're going to stay there at the Gatehouse or what you're going to do, but super proud of you, super stoked. Stu says, I have faked it while I am making it. I have been socially awkward all my life. Not trusting does not help. Yeah. I've done the same thing, Stu. I definitely went through the whole fake it till you make it, try to act like you're not socially awkward, try to act like you're totally fine. I've tried really not trusting people. I've tried isolating. I've tried all of it. None of it works. None of it. You want to know the only thing that works? I'm gonna do a slide share. I'm gonna go through and talk about what it is we're talking about and then how to feel better. Because if you Google cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT and you look over on images, there are a whole bunch of really helpful memes that walk you through on just reframing some of our anxieties and reframing some of the things that we do that end up sabotaging ourselves. But yeah, faking it till you make it, it definitely doesn't work as much as people think it does. And not trusting people, isolating, just deciding not to talk, like all that does is stomp it down. You stomp down the monster. And then sooner or later, the monster springs out. The monster doesn't just go away. So we have to move through our junk. We have to process our trauma. We have to work through our memories. We walk through the shadow of death. We don't go around it or over it or under it. Like, we go through it. We work through our junk. We address our stuff. And as we choose to intentionally move through our junk, then we show up differently in the world and we feel less crappy. And I don't know about you, but I love feeling less crappy. So I think I'm going to just slide share and then drink some water and maybe blow my nose. But I'll try not to honk in your ears, you guys. Thank you so much for all your questions. I'll come back before we end this broadcast and I'll see if there are any more. But for right now, we are going to go to a SlideShare presentation by a blogger called the Socially Awkward Blogger. And so just so you know, here we go. If someone could tweet this out and share it in the YouTube box, or even in one of the comments below the video, there is a link to this SlideShare presentation in the description section of this video, all the way down at the bottom, and you will see that I said this SlideShare presentation was created by the Socially Awkward Blogger. All credit and all accolades should be directed in that direction. I am only the messenger, and I'm only sharing the awesomeness SlideShare presentation to share with you the community of adult survivors of child abuse. So please, please, please give all the kudos and all of the awesome and the high fives and everything to the Socially Awkward Blogger, because I don't deserve any of it. I'm just here to share. So I'm going to share the SlideShare presentation with you now, and I will come back and check and see if you all have any questions on this SlideShare presentation. I'll do my very best to answer them. Let's see here. I hope this is helpful for you all. Here we go. This is on the topic of social anxiety disorder. I hope you all can see. Y'all could let me know if you could see that. That would be amazing. We are talking about social anxiety disorder. And I hope you can see this. I'm hoping. Okay. All right, so this is a SlideShare presentation by the socially anxious, my bad, socially anxious blogger. Okay, socially anxious blogger. All credit goes to the socially anxious blogger. All accolades, all copyright, everything goes to the socially anxious blogger. We're going to talk right now about social anxiety disorder. Okay? The definition of social anxiety disorder, also called SAD, S-A-D, or social phobia, is intense fear, distress, or inability to function in social situations. The intensity of the disorder can range from performance only to everyday situations. Rates vary on the prevalence of social anxiety disorder, and it often overlaps with other psychological disorders. Disorder is the third most prevalent psychological disorder and the most common anxiety disorder. Social anxiety disorder affects 5% of adult Americans, 5% of Canadians, and 2.7% of Australians. The average age of onset social anxiety disorder is 11 and a half years of age. After age 25 is very rare. I'm going to pause for a moment and take a drink of water. There are some genetic causes to social anxiety disorder. One of them being shyness, which can lead to social anxiety disorder. And shyness is genetic, believe it or not. Infants, which are more inhibited, often have parents who are shy adults. Social anxiety disorder can develop when a shy person is subjected to certain experiences. Social anxiety disorder is connected to past traumatic social experiences. Now, these are some experiential causes of social anxiety disorder, you guys. And if you're on the screen here and you're looking at this, or if you've clicked the link that is in the description section of this video down below, and you are on slide number 5, you will see a mother yelling at the daughter. This is clearly verbal abuse. So if we can pause for a moment, this is a YouTube channel with over 1,000 subscribers. And we're all either adult survivors of child abuse, or we know someone who is. And verbal abuse is only one form of child abuse. There's also physical, emotional, sexual, financial, religious abuse, ritual abuse, neglect. There are so many different types of child abuse. And child abuse can definitely contribute to social anxiety disorder. So I'm going to start at the top bullet point once again. Disorder is connected to the past traumatic social experiences, our past traumatic social experiences. Social anxiety disorder can develop after a person is ignored, rejected, or bullied. Let's focus on that for a moment. How many of us on this YouTube channel can resonate with being ignored, rejected, or bullied? How many of us on this YouTube channel live with social anxiety, and we have also been abused as children, or we have also been ignored, rejected, or bullied. You got the perfect trifecta right there. And I want you to realize that social anxiety is not something to be minimized or ignored or shoved aside. And if someone is telling you just to get over it, there's a slide for that in a little while, but I just want you to know that you're validated here. Your experience is valid, your feelings are valid, and you're not alone. Last bullet point. It is more likely that a child will have social anxiety if their parents placed emphasis on the opinions of others or used shame as a disciplinary measure. If I only had $1 for every time I heard the words, well, what does so-and-so think of that? You should be ashamed of yourself. I'd be a rich woman. So here we go. We're moving on to neurotransmitters. We're going to start talking about some brain stuff here. I'm on slide number 6. Don't check out. Try to stay engaged. Even if you don't understand all this, just maybe I'll say something that clicks with you. Please don't check out because I'm getting all technical here. Dopamine. The levels of dopamine are lower in those with social anxiety. Bullet point number 2, in some studies, dopamine's binding affinity was lower in people with social anxiety disorder. But that is believed to be only one possible cause of low levels of this neurotransmitter. Bullet point number 3, serotonin. There is some evidence that people with social anxiety disorder have reduced serotonin receptors. Someone needed to hear that. Someone needs to know that this is like a serious thing here. It's not just, oh, I just get anxious around people. Like, no, this is a big deal. I'm not diagnosing you saying you have social anxiety disorder, but social anxiety is a big deal. So you're valid here. Next slide, slide number 7. The amygdala is hypersensitive in people with social anxiety disorder. The amygdala controls fear cognition and emotional learning. This results in affected people overestimating social threats. Second bullet point. This is a big one. Don't miss this. The anterior cingulate cortex is also hypersensitive. It usually registers physical pain. But in people with social anxiety disorder, it detects social pain as physical pain. And social pain meaning like being left out of a group or being skipped over or being bullied. Think of all the different types of social pain. You know, feeling awkward, being bullied by others in a social situation, feeling like you're the only one that no one wants to hang out with. Your anterior cingulate cortex registers those social situations as physical pain, and it sends a message to your body. Next slide. Some cognitive symptoms of social anxiety disorder. Number 1, dread. Number 2, self-consciousness. Number 3, high performance standards, holding yourself to unrealistic expectations. Number 4, self-defeating thoughts. Number 5, inaccurate memory of social events. Number 6, constant review of actions of possible embarrassment. And the last one, people affected by social anxiety disorder expect a negative outcome in social situations. They go over scenarios in their head of what could go wrong or how to prevent it. After a social situation, they review and overanalyze everything they do, looking for social errors. This process can take weeks. Next slide. Some behavioral symptoms of social anxiety disorder. Being afraid of social activities, group outings, dating, talking to strangers. Number 2, nervous around authority figures. Number 3, avoid social interaction or isolation. Number 4, avoids eye contact. And number 5, crossed arms. Now, please don't miss this. I am not saying that if you don't like group outings and you don't like dating and you don't like talking to strangers, or perhaps you're nervous around authority figures, or you tend to isolate, or you avoid eye contact, or you happen to be crossing your arms right now. I'm not saying you have social anxiety disorder. I'm not diagnosing you. I simply want you to be aware that there are, it's the number 3 mental health concern in America right now, social anxiety. So I just want, my whole goal here is for you to feel less alone and for you to know that there's hope. And yeah, you're not alone. Next slide, number 10, some physiological symptoms of social anxiety disorder. Number 1, tears. Number 2, sweating. Number 3, nausea. Number 4, heavy breathing. Number 5, heart. I think what they meant to say is heart racing. Number 6, blushing. Number 7, abnormal walk. So concerned about the way others perceive them that they overthink even walking, like you're not sure how to walk. And last bullet point, these physical symptoms worsen anxiety. Knowing that someone knows you are anxious only makes you more anxious. A combination of these factors can result in panic attacks. Next slide, number 11. Some related conditions to social anxiety disorder are low self-esteem, clinical depression, substance abuse, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It just says that these are related conditions. Like when we say related conditions, it just means that these are things that are also on the spectrum. In fact, if you are seeing a mental health professional and they're looking to possibly give you a diagnosis, you could mistakenly be diagnosed with something else if in fact you have social anxiety disorder. They can ask you different questions and find out where you are on the spectrum of any type of anxiety disorder. Next slide, slide number 12, if you're following along on the link down in the description section. Here we go. These are some treatment options for social anxiety disorder. Cognitive behavioral therapy. The clouds part, the angels sing hallelujah, and everyone feels better. Cognitive behavioral therapy questions a patient's thought process and changes our reactions to anxiety-provoking situations. Ironically, group sessions help with patients' social anxiety disorder. Now, if you can find a group, a cognitive behavioral therapy group, look that up online. Maybe there's something locally. This will actually help you more than you think. Being involved in a group that is all there for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to feel less socially anxious, you will, even though it's ironic, you know, to go to a group about social anxiety because you're anxious about being social, you'll actually feel so much better. Bullet point number 3, a popular treatment for this disorder is self-help books, tutorials, and websites. And last bullet point, medication, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, also known as SSRIs. SSRIs are the most popular drug. Keep in mind that over-the-counter drugs for nausea or other physiological symptoms are not successful. If you're dealing with social anxiety disorder, taking something for your nausea or your other symptoms of your social anxiety disorder is not going to be successful for you. Next slide. Having social anxiety disorder is when people do this before talking to people. And there's a slide here if you're listening on a podcast and you're not watching. It has this slide. Click the link in the video description below whenever you have time and go to slide number 13 and look at the friendship algorithm, or Google Friendship Algorithm by Dr. Sheldon Cooper. And you will probably be able to relate to this friendship algorithm. It is so interesting to read. I'm almost at the end here, you guys. People with social anxiety disorder feel like this around other people, and they feel like this after talking to people. And people without social anxiety tell you to just do blank. Just introduce yourself, just ask her out, just keep calm. You can do it. And, or, you know, water boy, you can do it. But yeah, they don't understand what you're dealing with. But you know, it's not that easy if you have social anxiety. And when you are alone or you're with friends, you can be like this. This is performance only social anxiety, because when you're alone, you feel super, super duper amazing. And next slide. On a date, you've done this. You've sort of pushed people away. I don't want to be touched. And if you're constantly frustrated because no one understands you. And the end. The last slides were just for fun. The last 5 or 6 slides were just for fun. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys, just so you learn a little bit more about social anxiety. Again, the socially anxious blogger gets all the credit for everything in that presentation. I am just here to spread the message that there is hope, and I'm going to move over and see if you guys have any other questions. I have 8 minutes left on this broadcast, and I want to honor your time. So let's see here. Sammy says, there are no shortcuts. And even though it sucks, I am still glad I'm crawling through hell rather than pretending I'm okay. Yes, Sammy. Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. The more we pretend that we're okay, and the more, like Stu was saying earlier, the more that we fake it till we make it, no. Because our subconscious knows better. And our subconscious will win 100 times out of 100. We can't consciously pretend that we're okay because our subconscious knows. We can't lie to our subconscious. If our subconscious doesn't feel safe and confident, then we're going to have those alarm bells going off, and we're going to be having all of those physiological symptoms they mentioned, like the nausea, the dry mouth, the stomach ache, the gastrointestinal issues, the sweating, all of it. Even having trouble walking, or even like Dominique and I, we both experienced a speech impediment because of social anxiety. So yes, I couldn't agree with you more, Sammy. There are no shortcuts, and even though it sucks, it is better to crawl through it rather than pretend you're okay. Heroes Don't Wear Capes, welcome back. I love having you here. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, get over it is something that I have come to know as an essential gaslighting method. A family full of gaslighters. It is definitely meant to be triggering, especially if it's coming from the perpetrator. Yeah. And, you know, I want to say something here, though. I agree with you 100%. Heroes Don't Wear Capes. I agree with you 100%. Get over it is definitely a gaslighting technique, because they want to minimize and they want to alter history. They are history revisionists. That's what they are. They love to pretend that what we are talking about or feeling or thinking is either insignificant or untrue, because they have their own version of reality. However, I want to bring a slightly different perspective into view right at the moment, and that is that I'm married to a neurotypical, also known as normals. I'm married to a normal, and excuse me, I'm trying not to get sick, you guys. I've been sort of burning the candle at both ends. Hold on one second. I am married to a neurotypical, and he doesn't ever tell me to get over it, like, oh, just get over that. But I have seen him innocently wonder, like, why would you think that? Why would you think that I would act that way or do this, or like I don't get it. I mean, I clearly said this, and why would you? I don't get it. So he's never said like, get over it, but his version of reality is way different than mine. I think my favorite phrase that my husband has said to me is, I don't even know what that planet looks like. Because I come from a planet where, when there's silence, then that's usually building up to like there's going to be an explosion, there's going to be anger, and then like raised voices. And raised voices are always preceding some sort of violence or physical activity. And that's just not the case for my husband. I mean, he's just like, he'll just be silent, not because he's giving me the silent treatment, just because he's being silent. Or he'll get worked up about something and he'll raise his voice. That doesn't mean that he's going to next hit me. And I respond as though I would when I was a child. Like when he's doing the silent thing, I'm freaked out and I'm triggered by his silence. And so I'm like a cat that has all my hair up, standing on end. And then if he says something to me and then I like snap at him and then he's like raising his voice, like going, well, wait a second, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then that to me is a trigger that something bad's about ready to happen or things are going to get physical. And so he's just like, wait, what in the world is going on? Like, I don't even know what that planet looks like, type of a thing. Like once he talked me down off the ledge. So yes, the words get over it are definitely a gaslighting technique. And my husband's never technically said get over it, but there are a lot of things that my husband does that I find triggering because they were a precursor to violence in a previous life. Think of A, B, C, D, E, F, or G of something that someone says or does to you present day that would precede violence or abuse, or it meant that they were grooming you, like compliments. Like when you're a child and someone's saying, you have such pretty knees, you have such pretty legs, that's such a pretty dress, and they're grooming you so that they can abuse you. Or they're anticipating a need, and so they're meeting a need, they're doing something nice for you. When you're a child, they're grooming you, and then you ended up being exploited. And so neurotypicals or normals will just say or act or do something that is just neurotypical or normal for them in their life, like something that is just natural, like something that's human, and I will be extremely triggered by it. And in my mind, I'm going, this is leading to something bad. What's the catch? So I hope that helps somebody. But what has helped me is, again, not to beat a dead horse, but what's helped me a lot is the Safe People book and the Boundaries book. Really gaining discernment. Discernment is huge. I would say one of the characteristics in my life that I value the most is the fact that I now have discernment. I have healthy discernment in my relationships. So I can't overemphasize enough how valuable discernment is. And if you read about Safe People and you read what they are and what they aren't, and if you read about boundaries, what they are and what they aren't, and then how to identify safe people and how to identify unsafe people, how to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, and how to move forward and discern safe people versus unsafe people, healthy boundaries versus unhealthy boundaries, rigid boundaries versus weak boundaries, then you will be overall equipped with way more than you've ever had previously. And you will move forward in a healthy way and be able to experience more peace and experience a lot healthier relationships and a healthier relationship with yourself as well, which is where it all begins. So, yeah. But I agree with heroes don't wear capes. The whole get over it thing is definitely a gaslighting technique. Way to point that out for sure. Alex says, does anyone know if being temporarily mute is caused by social anxiety? Alex, this is kind of this is a touchy topic, Alex. So I'm going to just issue a secondary trigger warning. So a lot of times, depending on your trauma response, being mute, momentarily mute, it can be either. It can be one of many things, but I'm going to mention a couple. One, it can be part of your trauma response, your natural trauma response, which if you are not familiar with Pete Walker wrote a book called Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. I highly recommend you read it, Alex, and you will learn a lot about your trauma response in that book. And freezing is a trauma response. We have fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. If you are a freeze, if you're a freeze flee, if you're a freeze fight, if you're a freeze fawn, but freezing is part of it, then it could just be that you're in the middle of a traumatic situation. And not necessarily identical or synonymous with social anxiety. It can be a part of social anxiety, but it's likely that it's something that's triggering you from a long time ago. There's a reason that you are frozen in that moment and you're not able to speak. That's one of the options. Secondarily, I don't know 100% your history of abuse, but when we are triggered, present day, and we are mute, it can, but does not necessarily confirm. It can mean that there was abuse that was before the speaking age, pre-verbal abuse. Harry, if you could pop up a YouTube card on the video that we did on pre-verbal abuse, that would be amazing. If you could link that up below as well. All the YouTube cards, I want those linked down below as well, please, for everybody to have easy access to all these videos and all these resources. But if you experienced pre-verbal abuse, Alex, that could be part of it. If you are unsure if you've experienced pre-verbal abuse, but you have you've noticed that some things that happen to you when you are triggered are that you go mute. It's a possibility, it's not a guarantee, that there was some abuse in infancy. So look into that. Speak to your helping professional about that. I really, really, really highly recommend looking and looking out to find a trauma-informed helping professional so that they are equipped to deal with what it is that we're talking about here. I hope that's helpful, Alex. AKA Minute Maid, hi, I'm so happy you're here. When I have panic attacks, that happens to me. I go temporarily mute. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you were abused in infancy. It can be a part of social anxiety. It is likely a part of your trauma makeup. Your trauma makeup. So, AKA Minute Maid, your mom and dad might know. Now, this is interesting because normally, you know, we have mostly adults here, but I happen to know that AKA Minute Maid is younger. So your mom and dad might have access to Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. I highly recommend you read that book. I believe your mom and dad are already reading it. So maybe they'll allow you to read that book. But it's definitely, it's likely part of your trauma makeup. If you are a freeze fight, freeze fawn, freeze flee, then it could be trauma. It could just be trauma. And it also, let's keep in mind the slide share that we went through tonight from the Socially Anxious Blogger. Bullying, I mean, a lot of these things, I mean, things that you can experience in a social setting, there's no end to the possibilities. So ask your mom and dad if you can read that book, if that's appropriate, if they deem that appropriate for you to read, because that will definitely help you understand yourself and your responses to things, and you will be so socially and emotionally intelligent. It will really help you. I wished I would have read something like that when I was younger. So hopefully that's okay. Alex says, is separation anxiety a kind of social anxiety? I experienced this on and off with different levels of intensity. Okay. Separation anxiety is different than social anxiety, and it is more closely linked to attachment. Harriet, if you could pop up a YouTube card on the video we did for attachment, and then link that down in the description below. There's a video that we did, Q&A. And then also, if you guys don't have time to watch all these videos, but you just want the downloadable resources, you can go to nomoreshameproject.com, look for a tab that says downloadables, and you'll be given immediate access to the entire library of downloadable resources. And there is one on attachment. There's one on pre-verbal abuse. There is one on, I believe, safe people. There's one on boundaries. There are hundreds. So just go and just download them. They're all free. Download them, print them out, make airplanes, like Bobby says, or share them with someone. But you have free access to that. NoMoreShameProject.com or TraumaRecoveryUniversity.com, and find a tab that says downloadables, and then access those free resources that will help you. Look for attachment, Alex. Separation anxiety is more closely related to attachment. And that is something in infancy and in early childhood development. And yeah, and I can go deeper into that in maybe another video as well, but I want you to feel better and know social anxiety and separation anxiety. I mean, yes, if you're in a social situation and then someone is, you know, they walk away, like, did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Do I smell? Do I have bad breath? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Then yes, that's social anxiety related. But separation anxiety, the way I understand it, if I'm understanding it in the context that you're meaning it, is like, for instance, my son and my daughter-in-law have a dog, and their dog is a grand champion blue tick coonhound. And if my daughter-in-law is not around, that dog will go crazy because the dog has separation anxiety. Has very little to do with her interaction with other dogs. It's because she's being separated from her owner, her master. And it's being separated, like you are afraid that, and also, Alex, if you're still here, if not, someone tweet her and tag her. Go on to Pete Walker's website and look up in his search bar, abandonment depression. You'll be mind blown. It is so awesome. So abandonment depression and separation anxiety and attachment, they're all very closely linked. And I would love for you to be able to really educate yourself and feel equipped moving forward so that you know what you're dealing with. And what is that? Know thyself. I forget who said that. It was probably Rumi. R-U-M-I, Rumi. Know thyself. Definitely really get to know yourself and what it is that makes you tick and what you struggle with. And I hope these answers are helpful. I'm really hoping. Let's see. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, when I was 13, I was mute for over 18 months. I came out totally dissociated, and it was a trauma response. It was very confusing to look back at. Yeah. Something really traumatic happened when you were 13. Heroes Don't Wear Capes. Whether it was death of a pet, death of a loved one, perhaps you moved, perhaps you were a military brat and you moved like several times all within, like leading up to when you were 13 years old. Perhaps there was your home burned down. There was a natural disaster. There was tremendous overt abuse going on. There was a lot of covert abuse going on. Perhaps there was a rape. Perhaps, I mean, it could be a myriad of different things that are all traumatic for someone that is so young. I mean, you're in a developmental stage, right, in your early teens like that. So yeah, you dissociating saved your life. So it is very hard to look back at something like that and then use our adult reasoning skills and go, oh, well, Why didn't I just handle it this way? Why didn't I just handle it that way? And then sort of shame ourselves. But I really want to encourage you to guard yourself from shaming yourself on how it is that you look back on that time of your life. Because when we are young and we're preteen, developmental, even in our teens, and we go through something super traumatic and we end up dissociating, and then we look back on it and we think of all the different ways we could have handled it differently, it doesn't ever accomplish anything good. I mean, we learn from what we've gone through, we move forward, and we handle what we can handle, and we handle it how we can handle it. You're an incredible, bright, young, conscientious woman, and I just want to encourage you to give yourself the grace that you need to heal and to handle everything that you're going through. When you look back, I pray you will be kind to yourself when you look back at those years. That's it for the questions. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm over. I'm 11 minutes over, you guys. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to thank you so much for being here. It's my honor to serve this survivor community. Thank you again to Jack for doing the Storify, and for being here and supporting everyone. Thanks to Simi. Thank you so much to Maggie. Thank you to Kalisha for doing all of the awesome screenshots and everything you do over on Instagram. Thank you to Matt for moderating YouTube. Thank you so much to Heather for moderating Twitter. And I appreciate you guys all supporting one another in the groups. And I hope you will forgive me for not being as active in the groups lately as I normally am. I'm dealing with an inordinate amount of just things going on my end, personally and professionally. So, but I'm here. I look forward to being here with you guys every single week, fully present for as long as you'll have me. And I am about 12 minutes over, so I want to be respectful of your time. So my name is Athena Moberg. I'm an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I love being here and supporting this survivor community, helping you guys break the cycle of abuse in your family and in your relationships. So please put a comment down below if you have a topic you would like me to discuss, or you can email me at nomoreshameproject@gmail.com if you want some anonymity. But please give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful for you, and share it if you think someone else would benefit from it. Thanks for being here on the live Q&A, and we'll be here back again next week, every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for being here, you guys. Bye.